The pizza box hit the rain-slick pavement with a dull thud. Forgotten the instant Jack Miller's gaze locked onto the horror unfolding ahead. A masked figure wrestling a terrified, screaming child into the back of a black van. Without a moment's hesitation, Jack abandoned his delivery bike, his body cutting through the downpour like a blade. There was a precision in his movement, an eerie grace as if muscle memory had awoken from slumber. Within seconds, the attacker lay unconscious, on the concrete, groaning. The boy clung to Jack's waist, sobbing and shaking with fear, anchoring himself to the man who had become his unexpected savior. Who was this man with a pizza uniform and eyes that looked like they'd seen far more than traffic and toppings in the cold fluorescence of Boston's downtown precinct? Alexandra Blackwood sat stiffly in the interview room, her polished appearance stark against the sterile, grimy walls. The tailored lines of her designer blazer were more at home in glass towers and boardrooms than this cold interrogation chamber. She crossed her legs, her manicured fingers drumming anxiously on the metal table as Detective Ramirez offered reassurances once again. Your son, Ethan, is safe, Miss Blackwood. The kidnapper's in custody. We're just waiting for the man who intervened to finish his statement. Her voice, though even, betrayed a tremor of internal unrest. And you're certain this delivery man wasn't involved? The timing, it's too convenient. We've checked, Ramirez replied. Jack Miller's been with Pronto Pizza for 8 months. Clean record. No red flags. Several co-workers vouched for him, but Alexandra wasn't convinced. In her world of high-stakes cyber warfare, intelligence contracts, and corporate sabotage, coincidence was rarely innocent. Her eyes drifted to the mirror, a quiet storm brewing in her chest. Who was this man who'd stepped out of nowhere to save her son? The door creaked open. Jack stepped into the room, tall and lanky, his faded jeans soaked from the rain, a battered leather jacket hanging over his pizza uniform like armor worn too long. A trickle of blood ran down from a cut above his brow, but it was his eyes sharp, ever scanning, the kind that didn't belong to a civilian that unsettled her the most. Mom. Ethan broke free from the social worker and sprinted toward Jack, wrapping his small arms tightly around the man's waist. The boy's face glowed with something Alexandra hadn't seen in weeks. Relief, trust. He saved me. He did cool ninja moves just like in my games. Jack patted Ethan gently, clearly uncomfortable with the sudden pedestal. Hey, buddy, your mom's right there, he said softly, his voice grounded and strangely calm for a man who had just wrestled down a kidnapper. Alexandra stood and smoothed her blazer, instinctively adopting the posture she used when negotiating multi-million-dollar tech deals. Her voice was steel. Ethan, come here, now. The boy hesitated, casting one more glance at Jack before walking back to her side. His admiration unshaken, Alexandra noted the look with a mixture of deep gratitude and a pang of something else. Jealousy. Thank you, she said formally, extending her hand. I understand I owe you a debt of gratitude. Jack's handshake was brief. His fingers were calloused, worn working hands. Anyone would have done the same. No. Ramirez interrupted, cracking open a manila folder. They wouldn't have. The man had a knife. Mr. Miller here took him down without a weapon and without a scratch. That's not normal. He turned to Jack, curiosity laced with suspicion. Care to tell us how you managed that? Jack shrugged. Adrenaline. Fight or flight. Alexandra's eyes narrowed. And where did you learn those skills, Mr. Miller? Jack smirked faintly, watched a lot of action movies. But Ethan wasn't done. He's lying, the boy blurted. He knew what to do, and he has a tattoo like a soldier. Jack quickly pulled his sleeve down, the motion to deliberate to miss. Alexandra saw it and remembered it. We still need to know why Ethan was targeted, Ramirez said, bringing the focus back. Any enemies? Disgruntled employees. Competition. Alexandra's mind spiraled. Rival companies. Recently fired engineers. Foreign adversaries. We're about to launch a classified government cybersecurity platform. It would benefit a lot of people if we failed. Your son said the attacker asked for access codes, Ramirez added. That's when Jack spoke again. The man had a Ukrainian accent, subtle, but there, and the watch he wore. Russian military issue, Vostok commander model, Alexandra's. Gaze snapped to Jack. You recognize that. How? Internet rabbit holes. I read a lot between deliveries. Liar, she thought. His face didn't flinch, but his eyes avoided hers just slightly. Enough for someone who negotiates billion-dollar deals to spot the micro-expression. Can you come see my room sometime? Ethan asked, tugging at Jack's jacket. I have all the new Defender Force figures. But Alexandra stepped in. Ethan, Mr. Miller is very busy with his deliveries and will be increasing security at home. No visitors for a while, Mom. No arguments. She turned to Jack with a tight, formal smile. Thank you. My assistant will contact you regarding a reward. Jack shook his head. Not necessary. I insist, she said curtly. And a discussion dot as she turned to leave. Jack's voice called out once more. Miss Blackwood, whoever ordered this, they'll try again. The man I stopped. Just a pawn. Alexandra paused. And you know this because... He hesitated, then simply said, experience. Their eyes locked hers full of suspicion, his weight with truths unsaid. Somewhere in the silence, a reluctant understanding. Bloom died days later. Alexandra sat in her home office surrounded by glowing monitors, each displaying fragments of her son's world. Security footage, code sequences, internal breach simulations. The kidnapping had accelerated the timeline. She had days to finish a project meant for weeks. A knock broke her concentration. Miss Blackwood, said Roberts, her head of security. Pizza delivery at the gate. She frowned. We didn't order anything. The driver says your son placed the order online. Used your account. And who's delivering? Roberts hesitated. Same guy. Miller. Her heart skipped. She turned to the security feed. There he was, calm, still, yet observant. She recognized that posture. Not relaxed. Ready. Let him through. Escort him to the kitchen. Get Ethan. Minutes later, Ethan burst into the room, face alight. You came. I knew you would. Alexandra entered behind him. Ethan. We've talked about ordering things without permission, but Mom, Jack's. Cool. I wanted to show him my room. Jack placed the pizza down. Sorry about the mix-up. I can leave it and go. And then chaos. The alarms shattered the quiet. Perimeter breach, east wall. Roberts barked, hand on his weapon, Alexandra's. Heart seized. She grabbed Ethan. Safe room, now. Jack was already moving. The transformation was instant. No longer a pizza guy, this was a soldier, a protector. How many entry points? He demanded. 4. Plus the terrace. Your security, 3 men across the grounds. They're drawing your men away. The boy's the target, Jack said, scanning the security feed. Where's the safe room? Alexandra hesitated. Could she trust him, Mom, please? Ethan whispered. She exhaled. The weight of decision crashing into her. Basement. Behind the wine cellar. They ran dot, and in that moment amid flashing alarms, collapsing facadas, and truths laid bare, something shifted. The CEO and the stranger, the mother and the protector, their paths crossed not by chance, but fate. And though the questions outnumbered answers, one thing had become undeniably clear. This man who smelled like pizza and moved like a ghost from the battlefield was no ordinary delivery guy. And perhaps, just perhaps, he was the very shield Ethan needed most. Get there, now. Jack's voice sliced through the tension like a command forged in Warcom. Unyielding, unmistakably trained. There was no room for doubt, no time for questions. He turned to Roberts, Alexandra's head of security. Your backup weapon, I need it. Roberts didn't argue. His eyes flicked to Jack's with a strange flicker of recognition, and without hesitation, he knelt and drew a secondary pistol from his ankle holster, handing it over. Jack accepted it like it was second nature, checking the chamber with swift, precise movements that made Alexandra freeze. This man was not just prepared, he was dangerous, and perhaps He was exactly what they needed. Go, Jack said. I'll hold them off. No sooner had they turned toward the basement stairs than the sound of glass exploding behind them split the air. The masked intruders burst through the terrace doors, weapons raised. Jack shoved Alexandra and Ethan forward. Run. The world dissolved into motion, screams, gunfire, the thunder of boots on marble floors. Jack didn't hesitate. He moved like a ghost out of some forgotten battlefield. He was no longer a pizza guy. He was a weapon unleashed, the illusion of mediocrity stripped away, replaced by something brutal and trained, something terrifyingly efficient. From the stairs, Alexandra glanced back in time to see Jack disarm one attacker. In a whirl of limbs and strikes that spoke of years in shadowy theaters of war, she tightened her grip on Ethan's hand and rushed downward, the echo of gunfire hammering in her ears. The entrance to the safe room loomed ahead, concealed behind rows of dusty wine bottles. Roberts was already there, punching in the access code. The heavy vault door creaked open. "Mom, Jack's still up there," Ethan cried, his voice cracking with fear and loyalty. "Roberts will help him," Alexandra said, though her words trembled with uncertainty, because deep down, she wasn't sure anyone could match Jack Miller's instincts. Inside the safe room, screens glowed with footage from every corner of the estate. Alexandra clutched Ethan to her chest, feeling the frantic rhythm of his heart against hers. On one monitor, they watched Jack dispatch the second intruder, then vanish from view, slipping into the shadows to hunt the third. Roberts, peering closely, muttered, "Moves like my old uni commander. Special forces, maybe, definitely not civilian." Before Alexandra could respond, her phone buzzed. A message, encrypted, from an unknown number. "Check your development. Server, security breach, 3 days ago." Then Atlas protocol. Her blood turned to ice. How does anyone know about that? She thought. Then dash. Another screen lit up. A third intruder, masked, creeping through the basement hallway. Alexandra's breath caught. "There's another one," she whispered, pulling Ethan closer. Roberts raised his weapon and took position between them and the door. "Safe room secure," he assured her, but his voice betrayed doubt. If someone had come this far, then movement on the monitor. From behind the masked man, Jack emerged, silent, calculated. Like death itself, the struggle was fast and vicious, and over in seconds. Jack's arm locked around the intruder's neck, muscles taut with practiced control, until the man collapsed, unconscious, onto the floor. A moment of silence passed, then sirens, distant but growing louder. Relief threatened to make Alexandra collapse. Jack's voice crackled over the intercom. "Area secure. 3 intruders down." Roberts opened the vault. Jack stood there, battered but unbowed, blood trickling from a cut on his cheek. His eyes were still scanning, always scanning for threats. "You're hurt." Ethan ran to him before Alexandra could stop him, wrapping his small arms around Jack's waist. Jack flinched, but smiled softly. "Just a scratch, buddy." Alexandra approached slowly, studying this man, this mystery. "Who are you, really?" she asked. Jack met her gaze, unwavering. "Someone who happened to be in the right place, at the right time, twice." She didn't believe it, but before she could press further, Roberts called from the kitchen, "Miss Blackwood, you'll want to see this." They followed him upstairs. One of the intruders lay zip-tied on the floor. Roberts held up an ID badge. "He works for Deer Cybersecurity, your top competitor for the Atlas contract." Alexandra's face went pale. "Thomas Deer wouldn't risk this. Corporate espionage, maybe, but kidnapping?" Jack shrugged, pressing a bloody towel to his cheek. "Desperation makes men cross lines they never imagined." Ethan tugged at Jack's sleeve again. "You saved us again. Are you a secret superhero?" Jack knelt, his eyes kind but tired. "No heroes, but just people doing what's right." "But how do you know how to fight like that? Can you teach me?" He looked up at Alexandra, waiting for her nod. That one gesture seeking her permission made something inside her soften. "Maybe some basic self-defense," she said cautiously. As police swept the property and paramedics began treating the wounded, Alexander's phone buzzed again. Internal threat. Trust no one close to you. She looked up. Jack was watching her, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he gave the faintest shake of his head. Don't show them. A silent warning. Later, as Jack was preparing to leave with the police for a formal statement, Ethan begged to walk him out. Will you come back? Jack ruffled the boy's hair. We'll see. But Alexandra had already made her decision. Actually, she began, stepping forward. I'd like to hire Mr. Miller. Temporarily, for additional security. Jack blinked. So did Roberts. Roberts bristled. I'm sure he has pizzas to deliver. I think we can compensate him better than Pronto Pizza, she said firmly. At least until we understand what's really going on. Jack studied her face. This wasn't just a job offer. It was a calculated move. Keep your enemies and your mysteries close. I need to give notice. I'll handle it. You start tomorrow. She handed him a business card. Her private number was scribbled on the back. I have questions. I bet you do, Jack said. The ghost of a smile on his lips died as he turned to go. His sleeve lifted. Again, Alexander caught a glimpse more of the tattered dot, not military dot, federal dot, and damaged, as if someone had tried to burn it away. Who was Jack Miller, and what was he protecting them from? A week passed. Jack moved through the Blackwood estate like a shadow, silent, aware, always watching. The staff weren't sure what to make of him. Neither was Alexandra. Gone was the pizza uniform. In its place, casual tactical wear that blended in but gave him movement. He now worked alongside Roberts, integrating effortlessly into the properties. Security protocol, adjusting, refining, leading Dot and raising more questions Dot in her office. Alexandra sifted through the background reports. She had ordered in secret. Jack Miller's records were clean. To clean. Honorable military discharge. A trail of low-wage jobs. No criminal record, but gaps. And holes where there should have been data. A knock pulled her from the screen. Come in, she said quickly, minimizing the window. Jack entered. Professional as always. Perimeter secure. I've located 3 vulnerable points. Adjusted coverage accordingly. Thank you, said. He hesitated, then obeyed. His posture never truly relaxed. Alexander studied the healing cut on his cheek. The way he held his hands, ready for action even when still. You're not really a pizza guy, she said. Not a question. I was. When I stopped your son's kidnapping, Jack replied. But before that, does it matter? It does when my son is looking up to you. Jack's jaw tensed. Ethan lost his father 3 years ago. He's drawn to strong figures, male figures. Something flickered in Jack's eyes. Regret, pain. I understand, he said softly. Do you have children, Mr. Miller? He looked away. His silence was loud. Had. He said at last, one word. Cracked porcelain. She would have been 12. This year, Emma. His fingers drifted to his wrist, brushing the edge of the tattoo. His past was still written on his skin. I'm sorry, Alexandra said gently. What happened? Collateral damage. Wrong place. Wrong time. The words landed like tombstones. Her mother couldn't live with the grief. We divorced. 6 years ago. Jack stood abruptly, shielding something behind his eyes. There's more, Alexandra said, pulling open a drawer. She slid a photo across the desk. Jack froze. It was him, in a black suit, standing beside a man she recognized, assistant director, marshal of the FBI. The date 3 years ago. You were federal law enforcement, she said quietly. He didn't deny it. The silence was confirmation enough. Why hide it? Why deliver pizzas when you clearly have skills? His laugh came, bitter and hollow. Maybe I got tired of everyone around me ending up in body bags. She watched him, this man of shadows and scars, the encrypted messages, the ones that warned me. They came from you, didn't they? And for once, Jack didn't answer. He didn't need to, because in that silence, she already knew. How did you know? Alexander's voice was soft, but sharp with suspicion. Jack exhaled and finally settled into the chair across from her again. His shoulders, usually taut with alertness, slumped ever so slightly, not from defeat, but from the weight of something long carried. I wasn't delivering pizza by chance, he admitted quietly. I was monitoring threats, people connected to certain high-stakes projects, tech execs, ones like you. A silence fell between them, heavy and loaded with implication. Why? Alexandra asked, her breath catching. Jack's eyes lifted to meet hers, and though his tone remained calm, the intensity behind his gaze was unflinching. Because someone out there is targeting individuals linked to the Atlas protocol. The color drained from Alexandra's face. Atlas was her life's work, her company's groundbreaking cybersecurity framework, a classified system known only to a handful of her most trusted team members and a select few within the government. You're still with them, she whispered. Still working for the Bureau. Jack shook his head. Not officially, he replied. I walked away. After, he didn't finish. Instead, his hand drifted absent-mindedly to the scarred flesh just beneath his sleeve. Alexandra didn't need him to finish the sentence. She understood before the silence could deepen. The door burst open and Ethan flew in, a model airplane clutched in his hands. Jack, look what I made. His enthusiasm was infectious. But the boy stopped short as he caught sight of the serious expressions on their faces. Am I interrupting? Alexandra quickly softened her tone. Not at all, sweetheart. We were just finishing up. Ethan bounded over to Jack and held up the model eagerly. Can you help me fix it? It keeps crashing. I think the wings are wrong. Jack took the small aircraft with mock gravity, inspecting it like it was $1 million project. This is a tricky one. I think we can fix it, but we'll need elite tools. Got any scissors and tape upstairs? Yeah, Ethan grinned. Come on. He grabbed Jack's hand without hesitation and began pulling him toward the hallway. Jack paused, glancing back at Alexandra for approval. She gave a small nod, her expression unreadable. Dinner's at 7, she said. You're welcome to join us, Mr. Miller. Jack hesitated just a beat. Jack, he corrected gently. If I'm helping with airplanes, we can probably drop the formalities. That subtle shift, just one word, seemed to change something between them. Not quite trust. Not yet, but something that hinted at the possibility of it. Later that evening, Alexandra stood quietly in the hallway outside Ethan's room. The soft glow of a bedside lamp spilled through the partially open door. She heard something that made her heart clench. Laughter. Not hers, not Ethan's, a deep, warm, masculine laugh that had been absent from their home for too long. Peering inside, she saw Jack and Ethan seated on the floor, surrounded by model parts. Jack was demonstrating how to adjust the wings, his large hands guiding Ethan's smaller ones with astonishing gentleness. It was hard to reconcile those same hands with the brutal precision she'd seen in action. My dad used to teach me this, Ethan said quietly, before he died. He worked with planes too. Jack nodded slowly. He'd be proud of you, buddy. You got the knack. Did you teach your daughter stuff like this? Alexandra held her breath as she watched. Jack's expression shift pain, longing, and a kind of quiet resolution all crossing his face in a single flicker. Yeah, he said at last. Emma loved building things, said she was going to be an engineer. What happened to her? The boy's innocence made the question feel both gentle and piercing. Jack paused. When he spoke, his words were measured, truthful, but mindful. There was an accident. Some bad people were after me. She got caught in it. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Is that why you stopped being an FBI agent? Jack blinked. The kid's intuition was sharper than he'd expected. Yeah, he said softly. That's part of it. My dad died in an accident too. Mom says it wasn't anyone's fault, but I asked him to come home early that day. Sometimes I think maybe it was my fault. Jack turned to the boy, his voice gentler than Alexandra had ever heard it. No, he said firmly. Accidents are never a child's fault. Never. Your dad loved you, and nothing about that day was your doing. Alexandra felt tears prick. Her eyes She could see Jack wasn't just speaking to Ethan, he was speaking to the ghost that still haunted his own soul. Maybe, in saying the words aloud, he was offering a piece of forgiveness to himself. "You think my dad and Emma are friends in heaven?" Ethan asked quietly. Jack's voice cracked just slightly. "Yeah, I think they are. Probably building the best planes anyone's ever seen." Alexandra stepped back into the hall, her heart full and aching all at once. She looked up at the ceiling and exhaled. This man, this scarred, secretive protector, might be exactly what her son needs. And perhaps what she needed to. Downstairs, she returned to her office, her heart no longer guarded but driven. If what Jack suspected was true of Atlas had been compromised, then every person involved in its creation was at risk. She opened a message from Nathan Wells, her late husband's best friend and now CFO. "Security issues resolved. Proceeding with the demonstration tomorrow as planned." Something about it didn't sit right. She pulled up Jack's file once more, scrolling to a sealed section in his final FBI case. It had involved a deep dive into corporate espionage, with suspected foreign operatives. Names had been redacted, files half erased. But now, the picture was starting to form, and it terrified her. The next day, the demonstration room buzzed with anticipation. Government representatives, defense contractors, media outlets, executives from Blackwood Technologies, all gathered for the unveiling of the Atlas Protocol, the system that could rewrite the rules of cybersecurity. Alexandra stood at the podium, the perfect portrait of poise, but her mind was alert, searching. Jack, now presented formally as a consultant, stood quietly near the back wall, his eyes never still. They scanned the crowd with the intensity of someone used to reading danger in faces and shadows. Their eyes met for the briefest moment. She gave the smallest nod. He understood. Atlas was more than a product, it was a revolution. 5 years of blood, sweat, grief, and hope. And now, in front of the world, they would showcase it. Behind her, the massive screen hummed to life. Lights flickered, then stabilized. Nathan stood nearby, too close. Jack noticed how his eyes kept flicking to his watch, nervous, distracted, a tick. And Jack's instincts began to burn. Alexandra's voice rang clear. "The brilliance of Atlas lies in its adaptive algorithm. It doesn't just defend, it learns." As she continued, Jack moved toward the control room with deliberate nonchalance. Inside, a technician was furiously typing. "Everything okay?" Jack asked, voice light. The tech jumped, "Just fixing a little glitch. Mr. Wells said I should plug this in to enhance the graphics." Jack's eyes fell to the device connected to the system's core USB port. "Step away from the console," he said quietly, hand moving toward his weapon. On stage, Alexandra approached the final phase of the demo. "Now, I'll simulate a threat and demonstrate Atlas's real-time defense." Nathan stepped forward suddenly. "Allow me. I think this part's best handled by someone more familiar with the deeper technical elements." Alexandra's gut twisted. "Thank you, Nathan, but I've got it." She initiated the protocol. The screen behind her flickered, then changed, not to the expected firewall simulation, but to a live extraction. Lines of Atlas's core code streamed across the screen, being copied, stolen. "What the?" Alarms erupted. Steel doors slammed shut. Nathan pulled a gun. "Nobody move," he commanded, voice cold and calculated. "This will be over in 3 minutes." Gasps filled the room. Panic erupted, only to be stifled by the lockdown protocols that had disabled all security response inside. "Nathan?" Alexander stared, disbelief shattering her composure. "I'm securing my future," he said. 5 years in your shadow, watching you sell David's vision for peanuts. Did you think I'd stay loyal forever?" Alexander's face paled. "The kidnapping, the attack on my home, that was you." He smiled without warmth. "Regrettable escalation. If you'd given up the access codes when asked, Ethan wouldn't have been involved. You're a traitor." She spat. "David would be disgusted." David was weak. Nathan sneered. "I'm not." The lights cut out. Red emergency lighting bathed the room in crimson shadows, and out of the dark, Jack emerged silent, swift, deadly. He closed him before Nathan even realized what was happening. A violent struggle. Two men trained to kill. They crashed against the demonstration table, toppling monitors and scattering equipment. "You're too late," Nathan gasped, pinned under Jack's weight. The download's almost finished. Jack's eyes narrowed. "Maybe," he said, "but you're not walking out of here. The protocol's already gone." Nathan sneered, lips curled in victory. "My buyers have it." Jack's face didn't flinch. Instead, a quiet, knowing smile spread across his lips as he slowly raised his hand and revealed the USB drive between his fingers. "You mean this?" he asked, his voice like flint striking steel. "Your technician was surprisingly cooperative once I explained what a lifetime in federal prison for treason would look like." Nathan's expression twisted fury, disbelief, and panic all colliding in his eyes. He lunged like a cornered animal, shoving Jack off balance just long enough to grab Alexandra. One arm yanked her back, the other jammed a pistol against her temple. "New plan," he growled. "She's coming with me." Despite the weapon pressed to her head, Alexandra's voice remained calm, almost maternal. "Nathan, think this through. David trusted you. You were Ethan's godfather." "I protected Ethan," Nathan hissed. "I never would have let harm come to him. Not like you did to Emma Miller." Those words landed like a stone. Jack stilled, his eyes darkened. His stance sharpened and the room seemed to contract. Nathan's face paled as recognition finally struck. "Miller," he breathed. "You're John Miller, the FBI agent from the Bristol op, the one whose family got caught in the crossfire when your foreign allies tried to shut me up." Jack's voice was deathly calm. "They missed you, Nathan. They got my daughter instead." Alexandra's breath caught. In that instant, everything fell into place. The mysterious gaps in Jack's past, his inexplicable presence in her life, the strange timing of his appearance. This wasn't coincidence. It was fate, or justice, coming for its due. Nathan's knuckles whitened as he tightened his grip on her. "You've been hunting me all this time, 3 years, Jack said, taking a slow step forward. 3 years since you walked free. Since the Bureau buried the case and handed you a golden parachute while I buried my daughter." Nathan's voice shook, whether from fear or defiance. It wasn't clear. "So what now? You kill me. That's not going to bring Emma back." "This isn't about revenge," Jack replied, his voice stripped bare. "This is about justice." In that moment, brief, fragile, dangerous, Alexandra saw her chance. She drove her elbow backward with everything she had, slamming it into Nathan's gut. He staggered, gasping, and she broke free. Jack moved like lightning. The gun clattered to the floor as he disabled Nathan in 3 swift, brutal movements. Security burst in behind him, Roberts leading the charge. Nathan was hauled away, bloodied and screaming, his voice lost in the shuffle of uniforms and handcuffs. In the echo of the chaos, Alexandra found Jack alone in the hallway, staring at the USB like it was something sacred or cursed. "You used US," she said quietly. Her tone wasn't entirely accusatory, more hurt than angry. "I used Nathan's obsession with Atlas," Jack corrected, "but I never meant for him to go after Ethan. When that happened." He hesitated. "What?" She pressed. Jack finally met her gaze, the weight of years reflected in his eyes. "The mission changed. I failed once. I wasn't going to fail again." Her voice softened. "Emma's death wasn't your fault." Jack laughed dry, hollow. "Try telling that to Caroline, to my in-laws, to everyone who whispered behind my back that I put the job before my family." The pain in his voice wasn't performative, it was raw and honest. Alexandra saw it now. The reason he'd saved Ethan wasn't some abstract moral code. It was because he saw his daughter in that boy's eyes. Innocence, joy, vulnerability. Something he couldn't protect before but could now. "Was it redemption?" she asked gently. "Is that why you stayed?" Jack shook his head. "No. I saved Ethan because he's a kid, because he deserves a future, just like Emma did." He held out the USB. "Your protocol's safe. My part's done. You're leaving." She realized, I've always been leaving. What now? She whispered, same as before. Deliver pizzas, try to stay out of the way, maybe figure out a new path. And Ethan? Her voice cracked. He'll miss you. Jack smiled faintly. He's got you. That's what matters. He turned and walked away, each step echoing with unspoken grief. A man who'd finally delivered the justice he owed his child, but found it wasn't the peace he hoped. For Jack, Alexandra called. He paused without turning. Emma would be proud of who you are today. This time, he did turn, just slightly. Her words settled into him like sunlight on scarred skin. He didn't respond. He just walked out. 3 weeks passed. Jack hadn't been seen since. Each day after school, Ethan sat on the front steps of the estate, his chin resting on his palms, watching the driveway with stubborn hope. Alexandra watched him from the window, heartbreaking anew every time she saw the quiet vigil. She had tried to explain, told him the truth as best she could. Jack had gone after the bad people. He kept them safe, but sometimes heroes. They had to leave, and words, as always, failed to fill the space a person leaves behind. Her phone rang. An FBI agent, part of the International Task Force, Miss Blackwood. We've confirmed your CFO is working with a foreign intelligence cell, same group involved in the Bristol breach 3 years ago. Has Miller given a formal statement? A pause. Miller. We haven't located him. After he turned over the evidence, he disappeared again. Of course he had. She ended the call and went to sit beside Ethan on the front steps, wrapping herself tighter in her cardigan against the chill. He's not coming back, is he? Ethan asked without looking up. I don't know, she said honestly. Sometimes goodbyes are the hard to say, especially when you care. Ethan leaned against her. Do you think he's delivering pizza somewhere else? She smiled softly. Maybe, or maybe he's figuring out what he wants to do next. Like what? Something that helps people, she whispered. I think that's important to him. They sat in silence until Roberts appeared at the door. Miss Blackwood, he called. There's someone at the gate. Says he has a delivery. She tensed. Even now, fear flared easily. Who? Roberts raised an eyebrow, his face unreadable, but his voice held something like respect. A Mr. Miller says he has something that belongs to Ethan. Ethan bolted upright, nearly tripping down the steps. It's Jack. Let him in, please. Alexandra's breath caught. She gave Roberts a nod. Moments later, Jack appeared, not in uniform, not in tactical gear, just jeans, a button-down, and the kind of stillness that belonged to someone who'd walked through fire and come out the other side. Chains dot in his arms, a box. Ethan raced to him, flinging his arms around Jack with all the pent-up emotion of 3 weeks of waiting. You came back. I knew it. I knew you would. Jack chuckled, awkward and warm. Hey, buddy, sorry it took so long. Alexandra approached, slower. This is unexpected. Good unexpected, I hope, Jack said gently. He handed the box to Ethan. Your dad started building this with you, right? Thought you might like a more advanced kit. Ethan opened it with wide eyes. This is awesome. Can we build it now? Jack looked to Alexandra for permission. She nodded. It's fine. He's been watching that driveway every day. As Ethan sat down on the porch, pulling out parts and instructions, Alexandra drew Jack aside. They're still looking for you, she murmured. They'll keep looking, he replied. But John Miller died with Emma. Her throat tightened. I'm just Jack now, a guy trying to figure out who to be next. She studied him. He looked lighter, not healed. Not yet, but healing. Any ideas? A few. I've been offered a consulting role, private firm, nothing field-related. Sounds better than pizza. He grinned. Tips were terrible anyway. She laughed, surprised by how natural it felt. Then she asked, carefully, will you be staying in Boston? Jack looked toward the boy assembling pieces on the porch. There's a kid who needs help with model planes, and he glanced back at her. I promised someone I'd teach them self-defense, if those offers still stand. For a moment, Something like peace settled over her, not love, not yet, but hope. I think we can arrange that, she said softly. Jack, this one has a real motor. Ethan's voice rang from the porch. Jack looked at Alexandra. Not just for permission to join, but to stay. She nodded. We're having pasta for dinner. You're welcome to stay. Jack stepped toward the boy, toward the future, toward something new, and Alexandra watched, knowing that sometimes the most extraordinary heroes wear the plainest disguises, and sometimes, in saving others, we find the pieces of ourselves we thought were lost forever.